Hey everybody, today's recipe is sticky date mud cake with a beautiful, oh you're gonna love this, beautiful caramel sauce. So let's get into it.
Equipment, fantastic. Has everybody soaked their dates before we start? Anna, yes. Sophie, yes. Great. Sarah, fantastic. Alicia, have you soaked your dates? All right, my darling. I'll get mum's with you there. Fantastic. So just at the top it says, please have the dates soaked for 20 minutes. I'll get mum to do that while we're reading through the ingredients and equipment. Thumbs up from mum. Fantastic. All right, so you're going to need some dates. So let me show you. I've already got my dates already beautifully soaking. And they've already got the bicarb and the boiling water on them. Fantastic. Then you'll need some butter. You'll need some brown sugar. You'll need some vanilla, whether you've got vanilla extract, vanilla essence, vanilla paste. Fabulous. You'll need 2 eggs. And you'll need some flour. So I've got my flour here. Then you'll need some more brown sugar for your caramel sauce. You'll need some thickened cream. I've got my thickened cream, but I'm actually going to pop it back into my fridge in a minute. You'll need some more vanilla extract and a little bit more butter. Brilliant. All right, let's get into it. So I just put my recipe up. So the reason I'm looking over there is because my recipe is over there. So excellent. And I'm going to pop my cream back in the fridge because it's such a beautifully hot day today. Excellent. So we are going to do all the prep work before we start cooking. So the first thing we're going to do is turn our oven on to 180 degrees. And then we're going to grease and line our cake tin. So I'm not using, you can either use little ramekins or you can use a cake pan. So if you're using ramekins, all you need to do is grease your each ramekin with some butter. So if you've got some butter, you can just grab you can either grab 30 grams of butter and melt it, or this is all I do. I'll just tell everybody. I just use some paper towel when I grease my I'll get the word out, my ramekins. I just get a little bit of butter and I just rub all of my ramekins with some butter. All right. So those with ramekins can do that. Let me show you what we're going to do with our cake. All right. So I'm going to just give my cake a little bit of a spray. But the only reason that I'm doing that, is for our paper to stick. So I'm going to show everybody today, I don't think we've done this in this class before, how to line a round cake tin. So lots of the time before, we will have lined a square cake tin. That's what we're going to do today. So I've got my cake tin and I'm going to use a thick marker just so you guys can see it. So I've got my thick marker, but use a pencil and I'm going to run. So you can see that I've drawn a circle around the edge. Then I'm going to put, to measure the edge of my pan. And then using my scissors, I'm going to cut out my circle. Now, I'm only using black marker so that you guys can see. I'm getting my scissors. You can see, Sophie already did this. Fantastic. You're experienced now. Brilliant. And this side is the side that I've drawn on. So I'm going to turn it upside down and put my my baking paper. I'm going to put my cake paper straight in. I'm going to do the very same thing with my straight edge. Once you learn how to do this, it's super, super easy. I just want extra, so I'm and again, whatever side I drew on, I don't want that on the cake side. Beautiful. Popping that in there like that. Beautiful. Fantastic. So if you want to do your 2 cake tins, and then as soon as you've done that, pop them at the side. Now, the beautiful thing about this recipe is that we can either make it as in the little ramekins, or we can make it as a cake. Do we need 2 cake tins? That is going to depend on the size. So if you've got, what's the recipe say, 22 centimetres tins. Okay. If your tin, so I've got really little ones here. If you've got I've got a 15 centimetre cake tin, but if you've got a 22 centimetre, so you might want to measure it. So the mixture makes enough for 1 22 centimetre, but if you've got 2 smaller ones, use two tins. Does that make sense? So the recipe makes enough for a 22 centimetre cake tin. So do you want to hold yours up? Because yours is quite a big cake tin, isn't it? All right, great. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to measure 125 grams of butter into our bowl. 125 grams of butter. So if you're using, just going to put that there so you guys can see that. So you might want to use a scale to measure your butter. The other way to do it is a very simpler way, is if you're using block butter, you can measure the outside, because on the outside of the butter pack, it will give you 50-gram little segments. The more accurate way is to use a little scale, but not everybody's got a scale. Now, at this stage, I don't have a knife. I do have one, but I lose things. There we go. And you're putting your butter straight into your mixing bowl. 125 grams. The beautiful thing about this weather is that butter softens very quickly. I'm breaking my pieces up so that it's easier on my beaters. Perfect. All right, so we've got 125 grams of butter, and then we've got 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. So that is 1/2 a cup and 1/4 of a cup if you're using individual measuring cups. As you can see, my front camera's decided to die. But as you know, I never measure over the bowl, so I measure at the side. And in some recipes, you'll see the term spooned and leveled. Spooned and leveled. So spooned just means that you spoon your mixture in rather than sort of dig into the pack and sort of pack everything down. But brown sugar, we have to pack down. It sort of defies the rule. So regular sugar just sits nice and flat into the cup, but brown sugar we press down. And sometimes you'll see in a recipe that it will say firmly packed, firmly packed. Beautiful. As you can see, I've spilled things, but I prefer to spill over my workbench than try to measure over the top of my bowl. So 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar. And then 1 teaspoon of vanilla. 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So I measure at the side and then pour it straight in. As you go, as you use an ingredient, make sure that you put your lids on, or if you've got Ziploc on something, make sure you close everything, seal everything as you go along. And that just makes your cooking experience and your cleaning experience much more simplified at the end. So what we're going to do now is start beating our recipe. We're going to start beating our mixture, our butter and our sugar. And what we're wanting to do is for our mixture to be pale and creamy. So after a little while, you'll start to see that your mixture will actually change colour, and you'll see that at the top of your mixture, it will be a little bit darker. So after 1 minute of beating your beautiful mixture, I want you to stop your machine and scrape down the sides with the spatula. All right, so mine has gone a lot paler than it was. And so we're going to add our eggs one by one. So I'll put my machine down, crack 1 egg at a time. Now, I never crack, so I'm going to crack at the side. Let me move that. I never crack straight into the bowl, just in case I end up with shell or a yucky egg. So I'm going to start, that's not a term, yucky egg. If your egg is rotten or something. So I'm going to turn my machine on at a low, add my egg. And then I'll add the other egg. Fabulous. I'll mix that in and then I'll stop my machine. When you stop, scrape down the sides. And then we're going to add our date mixture. So the liquid and the dates. Liquid and the dates. And very slowly to begin with, we're going to mix our mixture in. It's going to look terrible, but don't worry about that. Don't do it on a high speed because it'll go everywhere.
Beth, should we have added the flour?
Not yet. Definitely not yet. We're going to. Great question, Anna. Great question. Great. All right. So the next thing, once you've got that, looking terrible, but that's okay. We're going to measure out 2 cups of flour, 2 cups of self-raising flour, and I'm sifting it. So sometimes when we make bread, you'll know that I'll say, oh, don't worry about sifting it. But when we make cake, we definitely want fluffy cake, so we sift it. All right, just take your time doing that. If there's any little lumps at the bottom, you can either press them out with a spoon. I'm just using the back of my fingers. Excellent. And then we can add our flour to our date mixture. So we're adding our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. And the reason we're doing that is because we want our cake to be really fluffy. We don't want the gluten in the flour to be developed. So we can do as much as we want with all of our wet ingredients, and then we're going to start slowly folding our ingredients in together. So folding is different than beating. So beating is when we use the beaters. This is when we use either a large spoon or a big spatula. And we're literally folding the mixture in together. And we use less action. So I'm just scraping down the sides. And this is where the mixture stops being curdled. So we're just folding it until you don't see any pockets of flour. So I'm going to spoon my mixture. So at step 10, I'm going to spoon my mixture. Oh, yum. So we spoon, sorry, I'll finish my sentence. We'll spoon the mixture into your pan. So take your time to sort of push it right into the corners or the edges. In this case, we don't have corners on a round, unless you're using a round. Great. Now, if you do have any extra mixture left over, you could use some little patty cases and make little miniature muffins. Great. So just see if you can see. I've got definitely enough for two. So I've got my mixture here, and you can see it's definitely just 2/3 of the way up the side of the container. And when you're ready, you can put them into the oven. Now, this is going to depend how long you cook them is going to depend on how big your cake pan is. So Sarah, you've got a really big cake pan, like a wide one. Sophie, you do as well. So the recipe says bake for 40 to 45 minutes. So if you've got one big cake pan, I would put the timer on for 30 minutes, and then you're going to do a test. You're going to insert a skewer into the, or a toothpick into the middle of your cake and see if it's still, if it's cooked, it will come out dry. If it's needs a bit more cooking, it's going to come out with mixture on the toothpick or the skewer. Great. If you've got little ramekins like Anna, then you will probably only need to cook your mixture for about 20 minutes. Now, if you want to have these for dinner, you can just leave them sitting on the side and you can cook them just before you want to eat them. Perfect. So for me, I've got like a 15 centimetre. So I'm going to put my timer on for about 20 minutes and check then. So, okay, so I'm going to start. I've got my saucepan here and I'm going to measure my ingredients. So we've got 1 cup of brown sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar, and we're going to add that straight to our saucepan. 1 cup of brown sugar. And you want to remember to, oops, the daisy, I've got like a ridiculous amount there. 1 cup of brown sugar. And then on top of your 1 cup of brown sugar, you're going to add 300 mils of thickened cream. 300 mils of thickened cream. And then just pop your cream back into the fridge straight away. Everything starts to change now with it getting nice and warm. And I'm going to add that straight to my pan. Beautiful. So it's 1 cup of brown sugar, 300 mils of thickened cream, and then we're going to add half a teaspoon, best get the right spoon, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract or vanilla, half a teaspoon, Always double check that you've got the right measurements. Half a teaspoon of vanilla and 60 grams of butter. I'm going to measure to make sure I don't end up. Clear some of my space. So 60 grams of butter, and then we're going to add it to the saucepan, put it on the heat for a medium heat. Whatever that is, whether you're using gas or electric, ask somebody in your family what medium heat is, because we've got sugar and we've got cream, so we don't want it catching on the bottom. Right, and then we're going to stir. So I'm hanging onto the saucepan with one hand. And stirring. And so we're slowly going to bring our mixture to a boil. And so what will happen is once we've got it at a boil, we're going to reduce it to a simmer and then slowly just stir it for about 2 minutes, and it's going to thicken slightly. So it's really important that you're constantly stirring your mixture. Oh, yum. How yummy is this? I'm thinking vanilla ice cream. Oh, so good. And you'll find that your sauce will thicken as it cools down. And as it cools down, you can then just, once you put it into the fridge, you can then just pop it into the saucepan and reheat it. You could put it into the microwave as well. And then as it cools down, it's going to thicken up. Perfect. So you can see it's that perfect caramel colour. Excellent. I'm done. I'm just going to take mine off the heat now and let that just stand.